Oh, I think Oliver Stone is wrong to say that. He's right to say we should always, as historians, you should always study out everything about the past. The fact he didn't eat meat, he was a very nice guy, apparently, and a very pleasant person to take afternoon tea with. But he was also a deeply psychotic and troubled individual who was totally delusional. And so he's right. We do need to look at the real Adolf Hitler, but he's wrong to suggest that the real Adolf Hitler was anything other than a deeply flawed human being. And actually, the more you study him, what's so interesting about Oliver Stone is he's so incorrect. The more you study Hitler, the more you read about him, the more you read transcripts of his dinner table conversations, the more you think this man was a complete maniac.
He tries to do a sort of similar revisionist approach to Stalin. And Stalin killed millions of his own people, his political opponents, but and I think everybody, certainly I know this, and I didn't study history for very long, he was a major part of World War II on taking on Hitler and the Nazis. When Stone seems to be suggesting that because he did that, well, that makes him a kind of more balanced guy. He wasn't all bad, he did some good as well.
Well, if Oliver Stone's simple point is that no one is all bad and all good, well, that's thanks very much, Oliver. That's very useful information. But the fact is that the real lesson from Hitler and Stalin is baddies don't walk around with a big sign on their heads. You know, some of them might be quite beguiling. Exactly. Churchill himself was very taken with Stalin. He was Churchill had a very difficult relationship with Stalin because he liked him personally, he admired him, but then Stalin would be joking about how much atrocities were going on in Eastern Europe. But the Red Army was carrying out all these rapes and terrible brutalisation, and Churchill would feel sick and have to leave the dinner table. So he had a very difficult relationship with Stalin. So you know, that's the real lesson here: is how these people become brutalised, why they do the things they do, and how the rest of us can very much be sucked in. Lots of British people were very, very keen on Hitler. Lots of Tories went over to Germany and had very fun times with Hitler.
We used to be very keen on Saddam Hussein once upon a time, weren't we? Yeah. Armed him to the teeth, and he was our best friend for a while. Just one final word for you on this, Dan, is about teaching. I mean, Stone doesn't really go into much into how history is taught in schools, and it's probably different in the United States to it is here. Do you think that we present a balanced enough view, that perhaps that we're failing to show more about the events that followed World War I that led into World War II, that perhaps we just use Hitler as a sort of shortcut. Yeah. And everything was great, and then this bad guy came along and he was really charismatic, and the next thing we know, 6 million Jews died. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, Oliver Stone is... I've read a few of his comments, and he's just got bad history. I mean, he's going back to this whole school of thought that said Germany was terribly badly treated after the First World War. It's inevitable they'd kill 6 million Jews in the Second World War. I mean, that's just unacceptable. You know, that Germany actually wasn't that badly treated after World War I. And it
was financially...
It's fine. I mean, OK, put it this way. After World War I, Germany was unoccupied by foreign forces, it had to pay a little bit of foreign money. After World War II, Germany was completely occupied, divided up, millions of its citizens had been killed. It had everything in Eastern everything in Eastern Germany was taken apart brick by brick and taken back to the Soviet Union. It suffered much worse after World War II, so why didn't it go and start World War III? Doesn't make sense.
Very good point. Dawn.
Well, I was just going to reiterate what Dan said about someone being pure evil, and should we look for the softer side?
Is anybody pure evil?
Well, probably not. But the thing is, from what I can gather, most of the people that, when you read about there was a softer side to Hitler, it's usually based around the people that probably worshipped him to his face, which is what he needed as a person. Now, with someone like Hitler, if you bow to them and treat them as they need to be treated, then they're probably going to be quite nice to you. Yeah. And I just think it's that real kind of grandeur thing that people like
I guess
have.
I mean, if you're only presenting people with, he was evil, he was charismatic, but he was evil, and if that's all you're presenting to people, are we letting youngsters down by not saying, he was quite liked his art, and
I don't think that matters.
He could be quite nice to his secretaries.
Some of the nastiest people I've ever met in my life have been really very charming, and you've got to look at the grand scheme of things and what people do. What Hitler did was the worst imaginable thing. The fact that he might have loved his wife and been nice to certain people and like to look at pictures and do a bit of painting matters nothing to me. It's like what he did in his life was the worst thing. That's just it.
I'm going to put it to you, Stephen. I mean, are people pure evil? The tabloids, if you go back over sort of serial killers in the country, they're always portrayed as totally evil. And I can remember hearing the interview tapes that Fred West gave, and they're quite disarming because, it's not it's so matter-of-fact that you just realise he's obviously mad. I mean, mad as a March hare. But you know, the way he came across, he certainly didn't come across as pure evil. There was a twisted human side to it.
How do you define pure evil?
I don't know.
Do you know what I mean? It's that thing about, you know, each one of us has a side to us that we either express to other people, or a dark side we keep hidden from other people. And it would be quite interesting, I suppose, to analyse and find out about people like Fred West and Hitler and study these people, perhaps. But on the grand scheme of things, in terms of what they've actually done, I don't really want to watch a film about their nice, cosy life. It has no interest to me.
It wouldn't give you a
whatsoever.
better understanding.
Absolutely not,
Why
because
do you need a better understanding of what they've done? You don't need it.
What they've done really supersedes anything that I really want to know about them, to be honest.
Sounds like we're all in agreement.
And it's almost like you're kind of giving them a chance to explain themselves. Or, you know, in some kind of way. Or
I suppose he's, I think, rather simplistically saying, you know, 6 million Jews died, how could this happen? And trying to understand, or seem to think that if you can understand the softer side of Hitler, or the human side of Hitler, that's somehow going to shed more light on it. And I'm not sure it would either.